Hey Jeff, how you doing?
Ah, great to see you, Lana.
You too. Thanks for joining.
Ah, not a problem.
Let's get started by why don't you share a little bit about yourself, the things that you do, so that people listening can have an idea of what you get up to.
My name is Jeff Fritz. People know me on the internet as C Sharp Fritz, whether it's Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, GitHub, PayPal, C Sharp Fritz, and all the places, right? I don't know if PayPal is where whatever. Um, but I generate a lot of training content. I teach people how to write C sharp code, how to work with .NET, build web applications. It's a little bit part of my 9 to 5 it, regular job that I do. I do work for Microsoft in a community manager role, helping to promote developer tools and build and make sure that samples and events out there get great content for developers to learn how to build applications, games, websites, what have you. But I do spend a lot of time on my Twitch stream building what I think are more like real life examples. I don't want to build the hello world example again and again and again. And there's right, it's boring and annoying when you see somebody constantly building. Oh, let me show you how to build a blog with the new version of foo technology. It's like that's lame.
Yeah.
So I like building things that are more realistic that folks can go out there and navigate to, and they're open source, and you can tinker with the source code and learn more about it. And that kind of leads into some more entrepreneurial things because when you stand up some of these websites or apps, it's like, well, okay, maybe there's a thing here that folks want more out of, and I can invest time into and do research on various services and providers and grow things. And I've stood up and taken down a couple of websites recently, and it's it's fun. It can be stressful, but at the same time, I, the key thing for me is that it's a learning experience for folks. Not just standing up an application, but maintaining it and updating it to new versions of languages and frameworks and technologies, migrating from one service to the next. They're all things that we all end up doing at some point, and sharing some of those struggles and finding some of um, those key learning points, I think, are advantageous for folks.
Yeah. What kind of examples of projects do you make? And you mentioned taking some down. How do you go about like picking what kind of projects to cover?
Sure.
Whether it's worth maintaining them. Can you talk a bit about that?
The big one that I was working on for 3 years, and I wrapped it up here late in 2023, was a website called ClipTalk, and everybody was talking about a similar type of problem in 2019, 2020, right as we're about to go into pandemic. Of hey, it'd be great if we had a website, if we had a service that made Twitch clips more discoverable. And as a website developer, as somebody who's interested in building not just websites, but something that's a little bit more of an application. It really struck me as something that we as Twitch streamers could all benefit from. So I just started down the base path of, well, what's it look like to embed Twitch clips on a website? And as I got further and further into it, I had some colleagues, some friends say, you're actually onto something here. This is getting interesting, how to build and evolve that content. And I invested more and more time with it, and did the migrations between various databases and services. But to your point, the deciding point for me was to spend that time on it was that it was something initially simple to wrap my head around. We just want to put a list of clips on screen somewhere, let
Hmm.
people play them. Well, it's easy in the documentation to see how to embed a clip, but those other steps of how do we make it interesting and engaging, and the ideas that kind of flowed from just brainstorming over a weekend. Well, gosh, I want to be able to search for clips based on what was said. There's always times where we as streamers we think back, oh, remember that time we did a thing, and if it's not written in the title of the clip or in the title of a YouTube video, you can't find it. But if
Yeah,
we could search,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah, that's it's so hard to navigate Twitch content because it's so long, such long form content, and there's no like even YouTube has automated like sections that
Yeah.
it breaks the video into. We don't really have that as Twitch streamers.
No. So if we could analyze and get the text out of the clips, put them into a search engine, that becomes really compelling then because now I
Mhm.
can go back to that clip from that time when I said that thing or that event happened and we were talking about it. I can search and find that. And there were little features like that that snowballed and they made sense. And as a typical application developer, building the ability to search for content or put together a playlist of content were things that felt easy to do. And I was able to lean in and build those things, and I had a great time building it. But to the second part of your question, how do you know when to take it down?
Mm.
The costs for hosting that got really expensive. Like
Mm.
when you think about hosting video, there were other websites that were hosting video and folks were transcribing video, changing it, converting it so that it could be posted to TikTok. And that's a lot of data that you're pushing and pulling back and forth.
Yeah.
So, right, if you think about it, it's gosh, it's only a couple meg to push a 1 minute video from Twitch to TikTok. It is. But when you're doing that in the thousands, you're your bandwidth gets into gigabytes of data.
Mm.
And if you're trying to scale that, you get into terabytes of data. So I went the other direction and said, well, just leave all the data on Twitch
Mhm.
and redirect folks back there.
Yeah.
So that all I had to do was pass around about a K of data for each video.
Okay.
But still, when you get out to 50 million videos, that's 50 gig of data you're searching through. And I was barely touching 1% of Twitch. I'm like,
Wow.
this is not scaling for me to have a separate
Mhm.
database and storage and archive this. How do I monetize this? How do I start supporting that? It's one thing when it's $50 a month, like, okay, fine, $50, $100. That's
Mhm.
that's not bad. At the end of the year, I spend $1,000. Okay, I can deal with that, right? I can
Right.
justify that.
Yeah.
But when we start getting into significantly larger numbers, and you just it gets harder to justify. And the killer point for me with that application, Lana, was Twitch developed their own service and discovery for clips. Well,
Oh.
okay, you know what? I'm not going to be able to monetize and deliver better features, better access than Twitch on their own data. So
Mm.
it made sense to step away at that point.
Yeah, no, those are a number of good reasons. Like, and you bring up a really interesting topic, which is uh, making a digital platform profitable. Because like you said, you don't mind putting a little bit of, and that's more than a little bit.
Oh
Like
yeah,
$100 a month already is it's
it's a
relatively
dinner date or
significant.
two. Yeah,
Yeah, but the thing that's funny is like even Twitch itself recently has said like they have not been profitable yet,
yeah.
right? They haven't been
That,
profitable yet. So
that's and I don't know about you, but as a streamer, I look at that and go, well, what are you spending your money on, and what can we do to help them?
yeah, I know, but when I spoke with somebody who was looking at making something kind of like Twitch just as a
Okay.
learning project. And as we talked, I started to realize how expensive Twitch must be because like I'm on Twitch, every day, and it could be anywhere from 4 to 12 hours of video content, and when it gets played back as VOD, it's pretty good quality that they save.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of data, and I'm just one person, like, even if it was just my data, that's a lot of data. Imagine the number of streamers doing this. I don't know how they
Right.
could afford to host and be profitable. That's
and just spitballing, if one 4-hour video is a gig of data, right? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but let's just say it's a gig of data. And there's how many thousands of people watching? That's how many thousands of gig they're sending out. And that's just for one stream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mentioned VODs, but like live is even harder because like, and the
Yeah.
problem is you want more viewers, but when there's more viewers, that's more data. It gets more expensive. So I don't know how you make a video streaming platform profitable.
I mean, okay, we all know that they're partnered with Amazon. They're owned by
Yeah,
Amazon, so okay, they're probably getting things at lower cost because they're using
right,
Amazon servers.
right.
But still, that's a lot of data.
Yeah,
That's a lot of bandwidth, a
it
lot of
is.
compute.
Yeah.
I I look at okay, something that I've kind of been vocal about is Twitch primarily uses the same business model that radio used when they started back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, right? We're going to put out advertising, we're going to charge for advertisers and right PBS, hey, you can pay for a subscription, you get a nice tote bag and whatnot. It's the same business model that's been around for 100 years. And I think we as a technical community have evolved significantly since then, and placing advertisements in video is what marketing folks know and understand as a business model.
Hmm.
And I think there's other more innovative ways that Twitch could go with their business model to reduce their costs and create cash inflow. Like Facebook isn't just letting folks come and post pictures of their weekends and their breakfast and whatever it is and share it with their friends. They're selling the metadata around that.
Yeah.
They're selling license access to be able to work with all of that data. Why isn't Twitch licensing and selling access to the metadata of the broadcasts, of the content of the broadcasts, of what the viewers are doing during the broadcasts? There's so much data there that they could sell access to, and we could learn more about not just what streamers and our viewer communities are doing, but right how to pitch and sell products to them. What's going on that folks are interested in? Or right, is there news or something that we should talk more about? I don't know.
That's interesting. And it goes back to the thing that you mentioned earlier, like our content on Twitch is very difficult to search through because it is
Yeah,
long form and it's not really like it doesn't have, I mean, there is, like you said, there is some data that could be sold and used. And
sure.
I mean, nobody really likes to have their data sold and used, but that's, I don't know, like, would you rather have the site or like it's a kind of a trade-off.
I
Um,
think there's a little bit of analysis that could be done that anonymizes some of that data,
mm,
right? So, hey, you know what? There was a group of folks during the Lana Lux stream that were really interested in talking about this topic,
mhm.
right? Okay, you know what? That is something that's interesting, and they were talking for 35 minutes about this. Okay, maybe there's an opportunity for some engagement from an organization and that wants to do more with whatever that is. I don't know. There's how much that we're talking about on our streams around various topics. My gosh, uh, dumping off and talking about I don't know, sunglasses, brands of sunglasses, or sports, or cars, motorcycles that become interesting for advertisers, sponsors to learn more about what are folks thinking about our products and get that data. That's a better interaction and spend of their marketing dollar than just, hey, I'm going to run a Nissan commercial, on n number of channels across YouTube and Twitch, and we'll see how many people click through.
Mm. That's so true. And there's a lot of sentiment analysis that can be done because like
Love it.
you can
Yes.
track what the person's saying if you just do voice to text, right? Audio to text. And then you have all of the comments which are live. So
Yeah.
you know that those are directly responding to specific topics, where YouTube, you don't know what the comments are responding to. If it's a 10-20 minute video, there's a number of things
Sure.
discussed, whereas Twitch, it's immediate feedback. And on top of that, like Twitch uses a lot of emotes. So
Hmm.
if if your people are using Kappa, they're joking around about it. If
Yeah.
they're using
Yeah.
like Monka S, they're afraid, like, there's
Sure.
so much like data that could be used in that way. And especially if, like you said, if you could anonymize it and sell it, maybe that's the way to make Twitch
Yeah.
profitable.
The,
I don't know.
it's it, it, it I feel like there's a bit of innovation that has stopped with Twitch, right? And Amazon to a certain point, because they're not looking at these bigger questions of how to interact with the service. The I I think we both experience that Twitch is interactive TV.
Hmm.
It's folks broadcasting about gaming, building different products, writing software, doing crafts. The ducks, my gosh, the ducks swimming around on a lake, right? The chickens wandering around the chicken coop,
Yeah.
and you interact with it.
Hmm.
There's something there that we're at the beginning of that I don't think they're innovating on, and I think they need to take that step back and think, well, how do we how do we take a step into a whole new genre of media? And that's interesting. That's much more interesting than just we're broadcasting TV.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate what Twitch is. It's so much more interesting than, like, I have a hard time watching just regular like Netflix or something, because Twitch is like you're actually participating in the content that you're consuming, which is so much more engaging and interesting.
Yeah.
It's I feel like it's underrated, and I feel like few people, like not enough people watch this as well. Like it's not very popular compared
What
to Netflix.
I find it funny that my parents will go to the Twitch app on their Samsung TV in the family room when I start streaming, and they'll turn on my stream, and
Mhm.
then they'll sit back with their phone and chat me on stream as they're watching it in the family room. Got a cup of coffee, working on the daily crossword puzzle, and they're chatting to my chat room. Like, this is the next generation of interactive entertainment, right?
That's amazing. Imagine if you could do that with traditional TV, you know? You can send a message to like the news anchor, or like
Mhm.
or your favorite, like what's the artist who's Bob Ross? If you're watching
Yes.
Bob Ross, and Bob Ross every so often responded to people, like how cool. That's what Twitch is. And you're right, like it'd be nice if it was, I don't know, maybe like made broader, or like if more people were. I'm not really sure what's missing there though.
There's and you see this occasionally with, like, it here in the States, Good Morning America will occasionally put up a poll or some sort of a question they wanna hear folks respond to, and they'll put a little QR code in the corner of the screen next to whatever the question is that they wanna get some feedback on, and sure, take a picture of that QR code with your phone and respond to the poll or fill out whatever questions, and then they'll show some sort of, right, graph or response metrics around that. They're dipping their toe into it, but there's so much more there.
Mm.
And I hear folks say, well, gosh, it'd be great if Twitch was an app on TVs and whatnot. I don't think they're there yet because of what we were saying earlier. Twitch isn't profitable. They don't want to stream more video out to devices where folks aren't actively engaging. And you're right. It's the magic sauce there, the engagement.
Mm.
How can we do more with that? How can we get more folks to discover it? Uh, is there other types of content that the less technical community, not just the gamer community, but the less technical, less sophisticated community would be interested in? Painting with Bob Ross is a great example, but what else? Like like my in-laws are really into carpentry.
Mhm.
Is there uh, we've got some friends that do carpentry. If they were streaming and doing some of that and answering or responding to that, is that what type of thing that would interest them and get them taking a look? I don't know, but there's definitely some next level. engagement there that could happen.
That's true. And I think Twitch is slowly moving in the right direction. Like I think it used to be largely gaming streams and that was all you really saw unless you really kind of dug in and found where we hang out, the software and
Mm.
development communities, the art communities, the various creative and music communities.
Mm.
But I think that they're kind of shining a bit more of a spotlight. They do have the categories and those
Yes.
sections, which I think is a really positive change and a great way for them to like diversify away from just people playing video games, which as a game developer is good and fine, but it's nice. There's so
Oh
much
yeah.
more that can be done. So
Hmm.
I like that they're leaning into the other stuff. Also, obviously, also because I do the other stuff, but I only do it because I think it's interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it will grow. Which there's so much potential for it to grow as a medium that people would enjoy. But I guess it comes down to that technical challenge, and I don't know what the solution is there. Like maybe data, metadata. I'm not sure.
And certainly, we all feel the time shift problem where if you're not broadcasting when folks want to watch your live stream, they don't really go back and find the VODs,
Right.
right?
Right.
Versus the culture on YouTube is very much, I don't care when you recorded. I just want that 20 minutes, half hour snapshot. Show me something cool, something interesting. Um, and the middle ground between those, I don't think the middle ground is TikTok. I
That's funny you should bring that up. I was just going to mention maybe the problem is that it is usually long form content. And I don't know if people have the attention span for long form content these days. Even 10 minutes seems too long to people.
I I've fallen into that trap on TikTok where it's within seconds. If somebody comes
Mhm.
on and they start talking about something that I'm not interested in, they have an ugly background. They have a voice that I'm not interested in. Flick, just like TikTok is the personification, it is the realization of my ADHD. Like I can go through dozens of TikToks in a minute. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Ooh, advertisement. No, no. Ooh, they're making
Yeah.
cake. Ah, let's stick around for a little bit. This looks interesting. Like,
Right. Yeah.
like there's something to that where I would definitely sit down, watch TikTok while I'm riding in the car to the airport or something like that. Am I going to watch a Twitch stream for the half hour I'm riding to the airport? Yes and no. Like the volume of Twitch streams, the live streams, is never going to be as the volume of live ones is never going to be as deep as the pre-recorded content, whether it's YouTube or it's TikTok. I can't take it offline while I'm on the plane. I if I don't catch the segment that I'm interested in, oh well, you missed it.
Mhm.
You can't rewind, you can't go back to it. But the TikTok, if I missed it, well, maybe it's in the next one. Flick, and away I go. Right? I don't know.
Yeah. It is definitely appealing, but I wonder what the effect of that is on us, on our attention span, on our
That's a
mental
great
health.
question. That's a great question. Um, I, I I think it's difficult to teach folks about technology in 1 to 2 minute segments. It just
Mhm.
is.
Mhm.
Concepts I can get nailed down in 5 to 10 minutes. Simple concepts. Oh, let me teach you about strings in C sharp. I can get you the basics of working with strings in 5 to 10 minutes. Realistically, I need more like a half an hour. But nobody's
Right.
going to sit around and watch a half an hour when they can watch in 5 minutes and flick to the next one. So
Mhm.
I I also want worry about the ADHDification. Is that a thing? Let's make that a thing.
I think it is a
The
thing.
AD of
I don't know if
of
there's a
our
term for it, but I feel like that is happening.
and look, I get wanting to focus and get to the point and just right, give me the high level information about what I need to know, right? Hey, who won the hockey game last night? The Flyers won 3-2 over the Canadians. Great. Now, hey, they won 3-2. Was there a shootout or something? What happened that it was just a one goal win? And then
Mm,
I dig in deeper. But I feel like that initial that initial glossing over of content. I mean, we kind of do that already with search engines, right? Here's just the first 3-4 line description that we got out of a website meta tag as you scroll through it. So we were already kind of doing that with text, right? uh, Doing it with video feels much more reachable for everybody. I don't know. um, it's it's compelling to me to see how that advances. And are there ways to capitalize on that and route from that short form content into something that is a deeper discussion description of some of these topics that we are more interested in? Oh my
mm.
gosh, okay, it was a 3-2 win. Well, can you give me 30 seconds about what happened? Oh yeah, they were tied going into overtime and there was a shootout and the Philadelphia Flyers won. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, now that I got the 30 seconds of that, can I see the highlights and can you show me the 5 minutes? So is there a depth that we can go on this so we can still get that quick glance over our content to find the things that are compelling to us and then dig in deeper? Like, is
Yeah,
this
kind
kind of
kind
what
of
we
like
did
the
with
news.
newspapers?
Yes, exactly. News, yes. Because they start with like just the facts, the media, who, what, when, where, why, and then you do a little bit more, and then if you want to keep reading, you want all the details, you just keep going, and it will get a little bit more detailed as you get further along. That's an interesting format for video.
Yeah.
There's
Um,
also with short form versus long form content. I find that there's a lot of people who, specifically with game development, I don't know if it's the same in other creative endeavors or in general, but I find a lot of people have a hard time sticking with and finishing a project. And I really wonder if that's because when you are scrolling on TikTok and you're like, "Oh, there's a person doing woodworking and it's really interesting."
mm,
And in 30 seconds you see like and a different angle and you see, 30 seconds of
yes.
work and you're like, "Wow." And then another 10 seconds of the result and how amazing it turned out. People don't realize what actually goes into this and the failures and the trial and error and the boring parts and the challenging parts and the parts that you don't really want to do but you have to go through to finish.
Yeah.
That's like the reality of it that gets lost, I think.
And but to that point, that's why I like when I'm building and showing demos of things,
Mhm.
I want folks to be as successful as possible immediately. Like let's show people the magic of look at this little thing that you were able to do in a minute or two. Hey, you wrote a little website, it shows a picture and it introduces who you are, and you wrote that in 5 minutes. Great. Now let's take the next step and add a little bit more to that and add a little bit more so that there are those quick successes to continue those endorphins that hey, I can do this. I made something happen. And you take that minimum viable product and you evolve it, right? And
Mhm.
I think we all hate when we do get into those long processes of refactoring and polishing and testing. Oh my gosh, what a pain in the neck. But to get folks to see that there's a lot of other things you can do and be successful, will at least get them on the right path so that when those hard times do happen, they know that you're not far away from the next cool thing that you can complete, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great approach. And I think that is a big reason why so many people suggest starting with a small project when you're learning programming, because without some kind of win, it can be really intimidating. But if you start to be like, oh, you know, I mean, I guess that's why Hello World is such a classic first thing. Right away, I made something. There's text on the screen. Okay, I can do this. And then you do the next slightly bigger project and slightly
Mm.
bigger project. And
I,
yeah.
I loved seeing in your content, you started at one point with just, hey, let me build a refrigerator and let me put, right, you put condiments in there. You had a bottle of ketchup and a bottle of mustard and some other things. And then you built, okay, let me open and close the door, and so on and so forth. And now let's build the rest of the apartment, and then the
Mhm.
apartment building, and then the elevator, and it turned into a whole town. Like,
Mhm.
it was easy to see and follow and see the successes as you went from just starting with a refrigerator and a kitchen, really neat stuff, and giving those immediate successes.
Yeah. No,
So,
absolutely, and thank you. Yeah, and those that's the I guess that's the joy, that I find in game development, and I'm sure many others find in programming is it can be challenging, but
mm,
every so often you put the effort in and then you get the win. It's like a bit of a emotional roller coaster, but it's one that does feel rewarding at the end of the day.
I don't know about you, but when I show my friends, right, or I show my family, hey, look at this website that I built, or this little thing that solves a problem, or whatever it might be, and they come back and their eyes lit up and they're like, that was really cool because I saw how to do whatever. You must feel the same thing when you show folks a piece of a game. Hey, look at the scene that we built. Isn't this neat? How? And you get that feedback, right, from folks who aren't in the industry, aren't in tech, and they look at it and they go, that's really cool. I love it.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
There's nothing everyone's like, "What's your favorite part of making games?" The best part is watching people play them. That's, like, so rewarding, right?
Right?
Streaming them, YouTube videos, and you can just see that they don't have to say anything, they don't have to react a certain way, but they're enjoying it, and you're watch it's like, "It was worth it." I did
I I
made someone
I
happy.
love I love seeing the comments on social media, or a video where somebody's talking about something that I was involved with, completely unprovoked. I don't know who they are, and they're talking about how much they enjoyed whatever it was. Oh, like, check mark, that was a victory. I'm going to take a snapshot of that or whatever, and I'm going to file it away so that when I am having those struggles, because I'm doing testing, I'm doing those long processes. You know what? Here's this note from that fella Paul that one time, who talked about how much he enjoyed that. All right, that felt good knowing that, and now I can keep moving on and head towards my goal.
That sounds like a rewarding thing to have found.
Right?
And
Oh, so
yeah,
good.
you can I'm sure you find them all the time, and I like that you capture them and kinda keep them like um, little I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for here?
It's almost like a scrapbook,
Yeah, that's a good
right?
metaphor. Yeah, little reminders
So,
of some successes.
yeah,
Mhm.
I keep a little notebook, and when I see comments and compliments on things, keep them in there. But I also make sure that I grab the ones where folks say, "Hey, I didn't like," or this could be improved." Those bits
Mm,
of feedback, I put them in a different notebook so that
that's
when
a
I
good idea.
do need ideas, let's go see what folks wanted to see changed.
I
Bring
like
those
that
in.
approach a lot.
So
It can be hard if you're looking for one and you're getting the other.
don't put them too close to each other.
Don't put them too close together. That's a good rule.
No,
And
but
there's a saying, you probably have heard this before. Your art, but I think anything that your projects are only as good as the feedback you're willing to receive.
yeah, yeah,
And it can be painful to hear the negative stuff, but the more you're willing to hear it and see it and consider it, I think it can really allow you to improve a lot faster. Definitely take some
absolutely.
thick skin.
Every bit of every bit of feedback is a gift, and
Mhm.
how we as creators interpret that feedback is going to help improve the final product.
Mhm.
So, if folks like it, great, lean into that. If they don't like it, all right, correct it, change it, adapt it to meet more of what they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's interesting. There's always this balance of it's I think it's a little bit different when you're doing like a more an app or something that's like a tool versus a piece of art because you want to have your own vision and direction,
sure.
but you want to balance it with making sure that people are still enjoying it. So there's a tough it makes the it makes the user experience design part of things a little bit
Mm,
more blurry and difficult. I'm used to doing user experience on things like banking applications, which is very much like
Yeah.
if people are not able, if they're confused, we fix it because we don't want confusion. It's not a piece of art, it's a tool for banking. So I've got to find that right middle ground for art.
You can't exactly do agile methodology with art.
Yeah.
It just sorry, there is no sprint in how you do a painting or a sculpture or ceramic pottery. Ah, no.
I mean, you probably could. I don't know if it would take the joy out of it, maybe.
That's a little bit of what art teachers go through, right?
Mm,
How do we provide feedback to kids that are making a bowl on a pottery wheel? How do we give them feedback as they're in process? There
mm,
aren't real good stopping points except for the end of class
yeah,
to be able to interject and correct. And so as artists, as creative folks, software, yeah, there's natural stopping points that we can iterate on. But mm, yeah, uh, drawings, paintings, sound effects, movies, that's hard. Developing in the open like you are, that it, for a game that is a huge project, and kudos to you going through and being open to the feedback and how that process evolves. I love seeing it, how Midnight Society is going through and getting that feedback with regular releases and
mm,
pushing and engaging their community to yeah, they're not done their product, they're selling access to snapshots, but they're taking that feedback and evolving. And sure, they're going to release a new snapshot, a new beta version every 3 to 6 months. Okay,
mhm.
but yeah, in between there, it's hard to get feedback until you hit those milestones. So um,
I mean, I guess that's one thing Twitch is useful for sure.
yeah.
You
Oh
can
yeah.
get immediate feedback.
Hmm. I there's definitely something to be said for milestone and that iterative development process that we as technologists go through. Yeah, it gives you that opportunity to adjust to change in the enterprise environment, banking applications. I worked for pharmaceutical companies.
Mhm.
Stuff changes all the time, and you need to adapt to that change. But building a game, building a web application product, you've got to keep your eyes on that goal and get there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's true. It's nice that we have that luxury of iteration
Mhm.
because I used to do I did like graphic design, web development kind of together.
Okay.
And some of my fellow graphic designers were doing the print side of things. So they were making books or magazines or billboards. So when
Okay.
they make a mistake, there's no updating it. That went to the printer. The company spent thousands on the billboard. That's how
Yeah.
it is. You can't go back
Y
and press undo.
the y Each time you send a guy up the ladder to try and repaint the billboard, that's a lot of money.
Right.
That's
Or
a
the
lot of money.
magazines in people's hands. You can't take it back.
Yeah. You're gonna have a letter to the editor in the next issue that says, "Sorry, we made a mistake."
Right. Right.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Um,
So you talked about ClipTalk.
mm,
Yeah, I mean that's it's too bad that it didn't there wasn't a way to go about it because I really appreciated what you were doing and having a way to find different streams and maybe use the sort of short form content that people love in a way
yeah.
that leads them into something that they might want to sit down with for a longer period of time. So I wonder if there's a different way to go about things that would work instead.
The so where I would have benefited,
Hmm.
trying to now to kind of stitch together what we were saying about Twitch's business model and building what ended up being a third party service that bolts on to Twitch. If I could have licensed access to search and work with Twitch's index directly, hey, I want to help Twitch and extend the ecosystem as a third party developer. Let me pay a licensing fee that allows me X amount of access to your data, not just, hey, let me see the latest clips that are out there, but let me actually search and hand that off and augment the platform Well, now instead of me paying hundreds of dollars a month to manage my own databases, I'm paying $100 a month and I'm interacting with just Twitch's database. They're getting data about how it's being used. They get information being sent back to them about other things that folks are interested in from my application. They're learning things about their content and they're making money on the data sitting there. So everybody wins. Like that would have cut my costs, allow me to continue developing, and
Mhm.
they make money off of it. And they don't have to spend the money on their own developers to build those features. So not only are they making money, but now they're also not spending money on it either.
Hmm.
So, right, if you think about each feature that Twitch rolls out, there's how many developers that manage that. And each developer is, let's say, all in with salary and benefits and whatnot. Let's say is 150 to $200,000. Let's just make it a round number and say $200,000,
Mhm.
including all the benefits and compensation on average.
Mhm.
Like each feature on the Twitch application costs millions of dollars to build
That's
because it's not
true.
just one developer. There's a team of 3 or 4, maybe 5.
And it
So
might not just take 1 year
exactly.
and maintaining it and updating it.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we think about that, is there an opportunity for them to save cost on that and expand their ecosystem? Because then it's not just beneficial for them to talk about new features, but all these other businesses now are marketing and promoting Twitch because there's other features that they built that they need to monetize to cover their costs to pay for Twitch and so on and so forth. Right? Now you've got a larger ecosystem that all grows and feeds back. Right?
Yeah, I can imagine the only reason they wouldn't want to do that is if they're worried that people will make money that they could be making.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But
So then you right, that's where the licensing of that content is.
yeah.
Twitch needs to decide what it's going to be when it grows up, right? Like I think about platforms like Steam. They've got their own games that they license and put on their platform, but they realized, wait a sec, we can license and let other folks put their games out here, and we'll charge a small percentage, and help with that. And they've got this massive ecosystem now, and now they've built and they have their Steam Deck device and other things that they're making money on selling those devices, but because they license out access to the platform, other folks can build their own games and promote and send people back there. Oh gosh, you want to get a copy of Stream? Go over to Steam, search for Stream, click the download button, pay pay the fee, and Steam makes their money. You get paid. Everybody's happy.
I mean, isn't that kind of what Twitch does? Instead of games, like technically, as us as streamers,
Yeah,
we're on the platform, we
yeah,
create the content, people spend money on that content, and then Twitch takes a cut of it. They
totally.
give us the like the same they provide all the tools for the monetization the same way Steam does, but
Yep.
they take a cut of it, bigger cut than Steam actually.
Much bigger cut, right?
Yeah.
And but I think the challenge to coming back around to what we were saying earlier is there's so many of those smaller streamers that just aren't profitable,
Mm,
right? If there's a smaller streamer that's streaming to 10 people for 4 hours, that's a gig of data they're sending to those 10 people that right, okay, they're sending 10 gig of data out and they're getting how much advertising revenue back on that. Even if those 10 people buy a monthly subscription, okay, Twitch makes $25. It doesn't cost $25 to send out 10 gig of data.
right.
It's a little bit more than that. So there's there's an imbalance there in their costs that they're not quite out there telling us about, but we can all go and see the video transmission prices on the AWS website. Right, that's the service Twitch uses. We can see how much it costs to transmit, how much data. It's it's clear very quickly that the amount of money that Intel or Coke or whoever it might be is paying for advertising doesn't quite cover all of their costs, and the subscriptions go a good way to helping with that. We're only talking about the data. We're not talking about even paying for the staff that manages the website yet.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you can pay to contribute to the costs. However, that removes ads, which means they make less from the advertising revenue.
Right. Oh, now we're chasing our tail there. Well, which one is it? Which
Yeah.
one is more beneficial?
Though I
And
do like when platforms offer ads or a subscription fee. If it's going to
agreed.
be, if you usually you have to pay for what you're receiving. I like when there's an option. I do like that. That
Yeah.
wish every platform had that.
I pay for ad removal on YouTube. I pay
Hmm.
for subscriptions on a bunch of different channels on Twitch. So and when my taste changes on Twitch, I move my subscriptions. It's
Hmm.
fine by me, and
Right.
it shows those creators that that I believe in them and that I support them.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah. So, how long have you been streaming on Twitch now?
um, that's the killer question, right? Is it 6 years? A little bit more than 6 years.
Okay.
So I think so, right? 6 7 years. It was
Yeah.
2017. So if you're watching this recording in the future, it's been since November 2017.
Okay. Yes. Roughly similar for me, I think, as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been quite an adventure on Twitch.
It's right. So much has changed, and leadership changes, different
Mhm.
directions, and there was a lull. I feel like it, during the pandemic where they weren't really doing much with the service, but they were kind of capitalizing on. There's a lot of folks that are broadcasting over here now. Uh, Quick roll out more advertising. So I think we're finally leveling back out again because folks went back to the office, so streamer viewership uh, dipped. But I think we're back to a level point where we were in 2019 before pandemic.
Right. Yeah, speaking of like changes of, the company's direction, there have been across a few there's been a few companies who have let go of a lot of staff recently. A
Yeah,
lot of tech layoffs.
yeah.
What do you think the future will look like? Companies are trying to be leaner. Do you think that they'll find ways to be more profitable and hire back? Like, do you think that's going to be a long time to do that? What do you think's going to, what's your prediction?
So to be clear, we're talking about some of the big tech firms, right? The FANG companies, right?
Hmm.
Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, and for some reason Microsoft isn't in there, but yeah, Microsoft's in there too.
Hmm.
And they've been laying off tens of thousands of people over the last 2 years. But in the grand scheme of things, these companies employ hundreds of thousands of people. So when when Amazon lays off 1,000 people, it's less than 1% of their
Right.
employees, right? So
Yeah.
it's not a lot of their employees, but it's still a lot of people. Um, I think it's an opportunity for other non-tech companies to start investing in some of those higher end features that the the big tech companies were doing. When somebody who was working on AI or vector databases at one of these companies is available, and there's a financial company or a pharmaceutical company or an insurance company, what have you, that wants to start doing things and learning more about that, to be able to bring in those experts who were working on the products means that they now level up what they were doing with artificial intelligence, database use, VR, whatever it might be. And now we get that rising tide effect of, yeah, there aren't as many people at Amazon, there aren't as many people at Twitch, but you know what? There's video interactions that are now online and live streamed from I don't know, some pro sports team, or from some bank that wants to help you with setting up your finances, that are engaging because the folks who were working with that type of live interactive content or those technologies are available and can influence and grow the business for those companies in ways that they hadn't even dreamed of before.
Hmm.
So, are those big companies going to reinvest and have bigger profits down the stream? Yeah, they're going to have bigger profits down the line, absolutely, because they're building bigger, newer products, and they're going to charge us more for them. But there's also we're going to see those products used and reused in other smaller companies, and allow us to do some of these things better that we want to do with AI. We just don't know yet. My gosh, can my bank help me with balancing my budget and give me a little bit of AI so that when I do to the go to the restaurant or wherever, hey, you've only got so much that if you want to stay on budget, you should spend here. Maybe you shouldn't get the double meat on your Chipotle burrito when you're headed
Right.
out. Those types of things, I don't know, but having those folks who were experts in those spaces be able to bring those ideas into those smaller organizations is going to go a long way.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. Yeah, I think this it does leave room for a lot of innovation, and also people who, you know, you're laid off, you're sitting around looking for jobs. In the meantime, maybe you're working on something, and especially with the AI tools available to people, I imagine there's going to be a lot of really cool startups forming, or even just products that
Yeah.
people are making from on their own because there's so many tools available. It's like a really kind of an exciting time in tech. Well, it's a very exciting time in tech. It's a little bit scary, but a little bit very exciting also.
I've stood up a website recently that wraps a training video series that I'm relaunching, but I needed thumbnails, and I am Lana, I am awful at building YouTube thumbnails, but I wanted some thumbnails and some images that would go nice on it, and I am terrible with photography and working with Paint, the MS Paint and Paint.net applications. So I went out to Chat GPT. I went to Bing Chat AI. Hey, can you generate an image that's a series of primitive stone cutting tools on a table? And within minutes, I had a good image that would work as a thumbnail for my video, and done, published, and I'm out the door. Like, it enables me to do more faster using some of those AI tools. Look, it's a fake tool. If I fake image, if I had access to those kinds of things, if I had a photographer friend that could have helped me out, yeah, I would have absolutely asked, "Can you give me a high quality photo that does XYZ?" But you know what? This is a good fallback to help me deliver something that looks good and fills my need.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's wild how many complex things are just done in a matter of seconds. I came across this song platform that you just type in the genre, type in the words if you want to, and like they're decent songs like with
Really?
voice. And oh yeah, it's just like everywhere I look, I feel like things are just getting automated. Do you have access to GPT-4 for the image
I
generation?
I don't have access to that, but I've done the image generation on Bing and Chat GPT, but
Mhm.
not the new one yet, and it does look very compelling.
It's like mind blowing the things you can do with this stuff. It's like I it's hard to even think of all the ways that you can use it. Like I'm probably barely scratching the surface. I'm sure there's people out there who are just like practically automating a whole business. In
Yeah.
fact, in fact, I've come across some that there's going to be, I think, a little bit of crossover period while people are not really familiar with what these AI tools are capable of.
Oh yeah.
And what's happening is I'm seeing people basically taking things like ChatGPT or whatever, Stable Diffusion, and they're giving it a specific purpose and then repackaging that and selling it.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think that
It it f- it feels right. It feels like all the folks that were in crypto started figuring out, how can I repackage Chat GPT,
right,
and yeah, it feels dirty to a certain point, because you're not actually building something compelling.
right.
I don't know, but right, on the flip side, there's also folks that build little spreadsheets that solve problem X, Y, and Z, and they sell the spreadsheet for $50 or something like that. Like, I get it. I do. Look, it's all a hustle at some point, and it's a question of how creative can you be that somebody's going to pay you for it.
Yeah,
So,
that's a way
like,
to look at it.
what are
And
folks
I
going
guess,
to actually
maybe
pay
it does serve a purpose because there's maybe people out there who are writing an essay and they don't know how to write it, or they're writing a, I don't even know, like maybe they're generating images, or they would like to generate images, but they don't know how. They're not familiar with the tools. So I don't know. I guess we're going to see what kind of things are made, and and I think there will be a crossover period, kind of like you mentioned with crypto. I think that unfortunately, a lot of people saw crypto and saw it as a way to make a quick buck because
Yeah.
people were unfamiliar, and I
Hmm.
think that especially gave it a bad name,
Totally.
bad bad perception.
But okay, you touched on a couple things there. My process for building and writing some of the content for this video series I've been doing is, it- look, I'm not a great writer. Like, it takes me time to write a blog post because I'll go through and read it and reread it, and I want it to be in my voice, right? So what I've started doing is dictating. Like, I'll open up my editor, and I'll turn on the dictation tools in Windows or on my phone, and I'll just start talking because I'm a much better just impromptu speaker. And I'll just dictate and look, here's the kinds of things I want to talk about, and this is that, and let me talk about this thing over here. And when I'm done, I grab the text and I throw it into Chat GPT, and I ask it, clean this up a little bit, and it fixes it fixes a little bit of my grammar, fixes some spelling. I go through and tweak a little bit of what it's referencing, and I end up with a pretty good product, and then that's what I publish.
Mm.
So it's still my creation, but where I would have had an editor or a publisher that reviews that content, and oh dear lord, if I worked with some doozies of editors, just nasty people.
Oh no!
Like, I'm paying you for help on this, thanks so much.
Oh my gosh!
And right, but to get that quick feedback and something out the door in less than an hour
Hmm.
feels so much more productive for me, right?
Hmm.
I could probably have a human edit and give more insight and give a little bit of more of what I desire in that content and give it a better tone and give me better suggestions. But for something where it's just me working on something, and it feels good to get that delivery.
Yeah, and I don't know. I also I struggle with the controversy of, oh, I used to have to get somebody, hire someone to do it, and like you can see immediately all the jobs that are being lost from this because you are no longer seeking those people yourself. Imagine what that looks like on a massive scale.
So what does that mean those folks could do then instead of editing and proofreading somebody else's work? Maybe they've
Yeah.
got content that they've never had a chance to be able to generate or work on because they're too busy working on somebody else's content. Now maybe they've got content that they can create and put out there,
Hmm.
and it
That's a
gives
good way to
them an
look at it.
opportunity.
Absolutely.
So but I look at what are the tedious things that we're used to doing, that instead of spending time doing that tedious thing, we can hand off, and now we can all do something better. We can all do something more advanced. We can take that next step of insight. I had some folks reach out to me that wanted to work on AI management of NPCs in a game. Like, that's that's an interesting place for me because, like, even going back to, let's go all the way back to Pac-Man. The ghosts had AI built into them, right? There was an algorithm. The red ghost, if it sees you, is going to chase you. The blue ghost, if it sees you, is going to run the other way, so on and so forth. And where does AI versus algorithm start and stop for those types of things?
I guess
And
I mean
yeah,
game AI. It's been called AI for a long time. The difference I think now is that it uses a neural network, so it's actually learning. It's being trained. I think that's where the new groundbreaking stuff is coming in.
yeah. So it's interesting, but at the same time, I I I hmm, I don't see where it's adding additional value yet. Yet. So for something
Having
that
an
we're
NPC that's got
yeah,
AI.
yeah,
I've seen some examples of it, and it's definitely interesting. I think that I think it's something that will become very cool over time. I think it can be interesting. There was an old game that I feel like went under the radar. I don't know how they did it. It was called Facade.
okay.
And the premise is you go visit a couple of friends, they're together and like romantically, and you're visiting them. And during this time they start fighting and you're kind of in the middle of this
Mm.
couple argument. And the interesting thing is you can type whatever you want and they respond. And it was
Oh,
surprisingly good. And this was done like must have been 10 years ago or like
really?
a long time ago now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And so that was it's definitely a different type of game altogether because it's not really like a classic game where there's like a win state and this and that. It's just sort of an interactive piece that, provides totally different outcomes depending how you interact with it, which was very cool.
Okay, so now you have me thinking, and I am getting a little more accepting of NPCs as AI. Thinking, right, in an MMO, there's a bartender at whatever tavern that is in the social square of wherever everybody hangs out, and if the bartender is learning from the folks playing the game and able to respond and knows what's going on, that does get very interesting. Okay, it
Yeah,
feels
I think
very
that
Westworld.
it does feel very Westworld. Yeah, there's another
Hmm,
one that's it was a bit before ChatGPT, and it was
sure.
basically ChatGPT before it came out. It was called AI Dungeon, and you basically it's like a text adventure, and you can go into this text adventure and you can choose the world. You can create your own world and
Mm,
interact with it. It was very cool, but it was also limited in a sense of it lost track of like who you were talking about, and like it would switch between it didn't really like it didn't hold, it was not fully consistent, so you would lose a
mm,
sense of immersion, but you
okay.
could see the potential and like what could be cool about almost like an AI dungeon master. Not that I've done much of that kind of gaming, but basically like it's telling you a story as you interact with it and it's deciding as you interact. So that was really cool to see the beginnings of, and I'm sure that there's a lot that can be done with that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. I could see some of this becoming very, very interesting. Sure. Now. Yeah. Hmm.
It's definitely a different experience because it's not going to be, when somebody creates a piece of art, whether it's a book, whether it's a visual thing, I think the thing that we really love, a lot of people, this is not the only way to look at art, but I think one of the things that we like about it is it's a form of communication from one human being to another. And it's often a
Yeah.
commentary about the human experience of some kind. And it's a way of connecting and understanding ourselves in this like human experience that we're all experiencing,
Yeah.
having. And when you take the human out of it, it starts there leaves that question of like what is the conversation that's being had here? Is there a conversation that's being had here? Is it a form of communication or is it just a regurgitation? And
Where's the emotion? Where's the feelings in this? Where's yeah.
maybe
Um.
AI
Hmm,
can take what we have said and done before and still express that as almost like an average of what people have thought and said before. So you could look at it in that way. I've heard people call ChatGPT the conscious collective. which is an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it mines all the data that's out there on the internet, and is it it's not conscious, right? It's a text calculator is how my colleagues have described it. It just knows how to glue together text, blocks of text. Okay, I get it. Still feels like it feels like there's knowledge behind it. And there is, because it's in a giant database, in a giant cloud series of services that are out there. And I get it. I do. I think we as technologists have to make sure that folks understand it doesn't have emotions. It's not a real consciousness, and keep that anchored. Otherwise, uh, folks like my parents start getting scared. Well, when do we need to make sure that we don't give them the keys to the nuclear warheads like they did in
Yeah.
war games and whatnot?
Yeah.
Like,
I
ah,
mean, there's more and more people that I'm coming across who do believe that it is actually conscious. And then that comes down to then the question is, what is consciousness? And because we don't have a clear definition, we cannot clearly say whether or not it is conscious. And maybe it is. I mean, it's easy as a programmer to look at it and say it's just regurgitation of text and it has
but
some knowledge and thinking, but
the, but
what is consciousness?
you're getting into some Timothy Leary types of discussions there, where right, what is reality, and right, virtual reality. Okay, if what you see, what you hear, what you feel is being delivered to you through electrical impulses that are coming from a machine, is that reality anything different from what your eyes, ears, and skin are feeling because it's of the temperature out there or something pushing against you or whatnot? Yeah, right. E- and I mean, these are things that gosh, I had a philosophical course in college that talked about this. It was called
Uh-huh.
Science, Technology, and Society, and we all had to read the book Neuromancer.
Okay.
And the one of the instructors was very good friends with Leary, and all of these philosophical topics come up about, well, what really is these things? What is, and this was in the 90s when I took this class. So
Well,
virtual reality and things like, gosh, I was using this today. Things like a Quest headset,
uh-huh.
they didn't exist. But folks were talking about, well, what does it feel like if instead of seeing what's in front of you, you participated in something else? Yeah, then these concepts of artificial intelligence and reality change, and the Matrix and Neuromancer, Johnny Mnemonic, those types of realities start becoming interesting. And I love cyberpunk. I think what a fantastic genre. There's some interesting things that happen in that genre that I don't know if we really want as a society.
I'm I feel like every day we lean into that a society that is a cyberpunk society more and more, and you hear things coming out. It's like a lot of the stuff growing up I thought was pure science fiction, and now we're actually facing them. And like you said, in the 90s, this was a philosophical debate, but this
Yeah.
is an actual conversation that we're having on whether or not we need to, if whether you're an accelerationist or a decelerationist with AI, and actual like laws that need to or don't need to be implemented. It's
Yeah.
like the conversation is now relevant. It's now part of our world. It's not the future.
No, it most things in science fiction that have been invented have come true. Dick
Yeah.
Tracy had a phone on his watch. I have an Apple Watch that I can take phone calls on. Like
Uh-huh.
that, Star Trek invented, hey, we're going to send people out into space to do these things. Like we weren't doing that, and so on and so forth. Like I'm giving Star Trek too much credit, but there were things
Never.
that right, the space focused science fiction we're writing about, that space agencies and went out, developed and built. Like this is happening because folks conceptualized it, and some billionaire or government agency said, hey, yeah, let's make that thing.
Mm. Yeah, that's why I love sci-fi so much. It's like, the first step to innovation is imagination.
Yeah.
People, they see these they see Star Trek, they see the flip phone, and they want to have a communicator that they can talk to their friends at anything. They see food getting heated up in seconds in the Jetsons, and then we have a microwave invented later on.
Right?
Right? Yeah.
It's it's so compelling, and the questions that we're asking ourselves now are things where, to exactly your point, the science fiction to reality bridge is shortening. Things that
Yeah.
are being written about and conceived, they're becoming real sooner than later. I, I can't
So
tell you
true.
how many people have messaged me and said, "Hey, there's a social media service that's described in this show, The Rookie, called ClipTalk." And I'm like, "Really?"
Really?
Nothing to do with my website, nothing to do with that, but it's a social media site that allows people to share videos. Like, did they have any idea how close they were? I mean, they called it Clip Talk versus I
Oh.
was Clip Talk, but still, the way they pronounced it and the way that closed captioning transcribed it, it looked pretty
Oh,
close
really?
to my website. Like,
That's hilarious.
how close and how fast are we getting to these things? To exactly your point, I agree, Lana. We need to figure out what we should accelerate and decelerate.
Mhm. So many interesting conversations to be
Oh
had
my
today.
gosh.
Like, I could just go on, like, and I feel like there's no one good answer. That's the
No.
thing. It's a very complex, all of these things are complex topics. It's hard to, I don't know if you can decelerate certain things. I think there's, at some point, technology will continue to progress, no matter how many restraints we try to put on it. It will always, unless there's a setback, and even still, it's going to continue to progress from that setback. So yeah, it's definitely lots of interesting conversations on that.
We need more cookie protection warnings on our websites, and folks are working around that and storing and tracking data in different ways. So, okay, fine. You can put your cookie laws in place in the EU and everybody has to abide by it, but there's new ways to store and transfer data. Okay.
Yeah,
The only constant in this industry is change.
yeah, and it's
And
happening faster and faster.
mhm. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. I tell my daughters, both of them, my younger daughter's about to start college. I tell both of them, it doesn't matter as much what you study. What matters is that you learn how you're learning, because the world is going to change so many ways after you graduate. What you
Hmm.
study now and the jobs that are available now in the 2020s are not going to be the same as what's happening in the 2030s or the 2040s.
That is so true. And that's a tricky thing to pick a future-proof job now, because I don't know if there is one. I don't know if there's a
Plumbing. Plumbing.
plumbing. Plumbing. Yeah.
We're always
Yeah.
going to need toilets until the three
Sanitization
seashells.
jobs, garbage removal. Those are
There you go.
always like, um, okay, is there a program yet for prompt engineering or classes?
I haven't seen one at the universities that my daughters are looking at. But then again,
Okay.
right, it takes time to build a college curriculum and get something rolled out there.
Yeah.
But there's definitely folks out there pitching courses on YouTube and on
Yeah.
their own websites. Hey, pay me $500 and I'll teach you how to be a prompt engineer with ChatGPT. Give me a break. Give me a break. There's classes on how to learn how to work with AI. Sure. The
Hmm.
I think it's incumbent on us as technologists to do a good job of making those tools more accessible for the non-technical folks. My mom that's sitting down watching Twitch on her TV and using her phone, how can she take advantage of some of these resources better? I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, and also I think there's another thing that we're losing that we need to bring back, and that is how to create things with technology that encourage healthy human interaction, because that is going away so quickly with all of the conveniences we have. But we need to, like, make a point to bring it back in maybe different ways, right?
The internet loves to hate things, right? If we look at the most popular tweets, I'm still not calling it X, but if we the most popular tweets, the most popular videos on YouTube or on TikTok, they're when bad things happen, somebody has an accident, falls on their face, or somebody does something completely outrageous that nobody likes. Those are the popular things that people are paying attention to. It right? It's just like driving down the highway and there's an accident on the side of the road and everybody pauses because they, oh my gosh, do I know who got hurt? Do I, what happened? I want to make sure everybody's okay. That kind of thing.
Mhm.
How do we encourage better interactions? I think is a fantastic topic, Lana, that more people need to talk about.
Mhm.
Um, there's we all see and hear how unhealthy it is for particularly young ladies on Instagram, feeling like they're not good enough, seeing the Instagram influencers and that type of thing, and
Mhm.
I worry about that for for younger folks who are just coming into their own and discovering who they are, and what their direction is, what where life is going to take them. And yeah, how can we encourage them that there is more out there than what's going on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or
Yeah.
Twitch?
Mhm.
um I, there's definitely something that we need to do a good job of handing to the next generation.
Yeah, I think so. I think
I
so.
don't think everybody can be Mr. Beast.
And even then, that's still he does good charitable things, but
He
it's
does.
there's still this element of connection with each other that we're lacking in a huge way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I do like Twitch. I do like that you are still talking with people. There is conversation happening. You feel like there is a sense of community on Twitch, and that is like probably the best thing about the platform. And if anything that they're going to do, I hope that they lean into that more, because that is what I think we need more of. And even if
Hmm.
it's a financial challenge, that is the best part of it, I think, at the end of the day.
I'm eager to see how the guest star and stream together features come along, where we're going to be able to more easily allow folks to call in and join a stream, have guests on stream. These features that they're building that we had to use third party services to access and work with before, but to standardize and make it embedded in the platform is interesting.
Hmm.
And I hope that it encourages, to exactly your point, a little bit more of face-to-face communication interaction. Be able to
Mhm.
take a half an hour between creating and working in different segments, and take a couple phone calls and tell jokes and share stories with friends that we've met online, and do something more.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like where that could go, Lana, and be more engaging for everybody.
Absolutely. And how nice is it to sit and talk with someone else you met online and have a interesting conversation about all these types of things? It's great.
Absolutely, yeah, totally.
Well, that's maybe a good place to wrap it up. It's
All
been
right,
so nice talking with you. So many interesting I feel like I could talk with you for ages. Maybe we'll have you back on again down the road a little
sure,
bit if you're up for it.
happy to.
So, thank you again for joining. Where can people reach you if they want to learn about the stuff you do, and find out how to learn from you, because you're such a great educator?
So, best place folks can find me is Twitter, twitter.com, C sharp Fritz or X, whatever it is. Whenever you're watching this recording, so I'm C sharp Fritz out there. You can find me on Twitch TV, C sharp Fritz. Mastodon, I'm out on the Mastodon also.
Mhm.
So, and I have a YouTube series that I'm working on called C Sharp in the Cards. You can find that it's a series of lessons to get folks started with programming using a deck
Awesome.
of cards as an example. because there's so many
Cool.
abstract concepts in learning technology to relate back to something that you can put your hands on, and we all can feel and work with, is something that people can relate to. So there's a website for that. There's a playlist on my YouTube channel that folks can find and take a look at. So
Very neat. That sounds awesome. Cool. And I didn't get a chance to say yet, but you have an amazing C sharp Superman hat. It's very nice.
so that's a logo that the .NET Foundation has, called C Sharp Save the Day, and I've totally leaned into it. I love the logo. I had a friend on Twitch. She does embroidery, Fierce Kittens, put it on a
Oh yeah.
hat for me, and it's become easy for folks to find me at events and in person when I'm wearing the Super C Sharp hat.
Very nice. I like it. All right. Well, thank you again. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks
I'll
so
talk
much.
to you later.
Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.